Commander Cole stood on the bridge of the USS Horizon and watched the stars through the main window. His ship was one of 12 human vessels flying in formation with 30 warships. It was the largest joint mission between humans and aliens in history, and Cole felt proud to lead it. They had come to Earth 6 months ago with an offer of friendship. They were tall creatures with pale blue skin and 4 arms. Their technology was far more advanced than anything humans had built. They spoke of mutual respect and shared goals. They promised that together, humans could bring peace to this part of the galaxy. Ambassador had signed the treaty herself. She had smiled at the cameras and called humans brave pioneers. She had said the Confederacy was honored to stand beside Earth. Cole had believed every word. Now they were flying toward Prime, a colony world under attack by the Swarm. There were insect-like creatures that conquered worlds and consumed everything in their path. They had already destroyed 3 colonies, and Prime was next on their list. Lieutenant Maya Price walked up to stand beside Cole. She was his tactical officer, a young woman with sharp eyes and a sharper mind. She had served under Cole for 5 years, and he trusted her completely. "Something wrong?" Cole asked. Maya looked at the ships on the display screen. "I do not trust them, sir." Cole raised an eyebrow. "They have been nothing but helpful since we met them." "That is what worries me," Maya said. "They are too helpful. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. Why do they need our ships to fight them?" It was a fair question. Cole had wondered the same thing himself. But Admiral Lane had approved the mission, and Cole believed in following orders. Besides, Earth needed allies in this vast and dangerous galaxy. If helping them meant earning their trust, it was worth the risk. "We honor our commitments," Cole said. "That is what makes us human." Maya nodded, but the doubt never left her eyes. The fleet arrived at Prime 3 days later. The planet was a beautiful world of green forests and blue oceans. Cole could see cities dotting the coastlines, their silver towers reaching toward the sky. It looked peaceful, but the peace would not last. They were coming. They did not have to wait long. The fleet appeared on the edge of the system, a swarm of black ships that blocked out the stars. There were hundreds of them, maybe thousands. Cole felt his stomach tighten, but he kept his face calm for his crew. "All ships battle stations," he ordered. The human fleet moved into attack formation. Their ships were smaller than the vessels, but faster and more nimble. Cole had spent years developing tactics that used human speed and creativity to overcome stronger enemies. Today, he would put those tactics to the test. The battle began with a burst of weapons fire. Human ships darted between formations, drawing their attention and breaking their lines. Warships struck from the flanks, their powerful cannons tearing through armor. For a moment, Cole thought they might actually win. Then everything changed. The ships stopped firing. One by one, they turned away from the battle and began flying toward the edge of the system. Cole stared at the display screen in disbelief. "What are they doing?" Maya demanded. Cole opened a channel to the flagship. "Ambassador, your ships are withdrawing. What is happening?" There was a long pause before A's face appeared on the screen. She looked calm, almost bored. Her 4 hands were folded in her lap, and her pale blue eyes showed no emotion. "Commander Cole," she said, "I must thank you for your service. Your ships have provided an excellent distraction." Cole felt his blood run cold. "What are you talking about?" "They were going to destroy our colony," A explained. "We needed time to evacuate our people. Your fleet will keep them busy while we escape. It is a fair trade, do you not think?" "You are leaving us to die," Cole said. A smiled. It was a cold smile, empty of warmth or guilt. "Humans are new to the galaxy. You do not understand how things work. The strong survive by sacrificing the weak. Your species served its purpose. Goodbye, Commander." The screen went dark. Cole stood frozen for a moment. Around him, his crew stared in horror as the fleet disappeared into faster-than-light travel. They were alone now, surrounded by hundreds of ships with no hope of rescue. "Sir," Maya said quietly, "your orders." Cole looked at his crew. He saw fear in their eyes, but he also saw something else. He saw determination. He saw the stubborn human spirit that had carried their species from caves to the stars. They were not going to die without a fight. "All ships fall back to the asteroid field," Cole ordered. "We are going to make them pay for every inch they take." The next few hours were chaos. They pursued them relentlessly, their weapons tearing human ships apart. The USS Vigilant was destroyed first, then the USS Liberty. 6 more ships followed, their crews dying in fire and darkness. By the time they reached the asteroid field, only 4 human vessels remained. The USS Horizon, the USS Reliant, the USS Defiance, the USS Valor. Cole gathered his surviving captains on a video call. Captain Bate Morgan of the Reliant had blood on her face from a head wound. Captain Shaw of the Defiance looked exhausted. Captain Torres of the Valor was crying silently, mourning friends she had lost. "We are not going to surrender," Cole told them. "They will learn what it means to fight humans, and when this is over, they will learn what it means to betray us." Maya was already working on a plan. She mapped the asteroid field and calculated trajectories. If they could use the asteroids as weapons, they might survive long enough to send a message to Earth. Cole walked to the communication station and began recording. He told Earth everything that had happened. He named every ship that was destroyed. He described the betrayal in detail. He spoke the names of every crew member who had died because of lies. At the end of the recording, he added one final request. "Remember what they did to us. Remember and never forget." He sent the message toward Earth and turned back to face the fleet. The battle was not over yet. The asteroid field was a maze of floating rocks and dust. Some asteroids were small enough to fit in a hand. Others were larger than cities. Commander Cole guided the 4 surviving human ships deep into this maze, hoping they would lose them in the chaos. They did not. They followed them into the field, their black ships weaving between the rocks with terrible precision. They were hunters, and they smelled blood. 4 crippled human ships were easy prey. Cole stood on the bridge of the USS Horizon and watched the enemy approach. His ship was badly damaged. Half the systems were offline, and emergency lights cast red shadows across every surface. The air recyclers were working at half capacity, making the bridge feel stuffy and warm. "How long can we last?" he asked. Chief Engineer Palmer looked up from his console. He was a big man with grease on his hands and dark circles under his eyes. He had not slept in 2 days, but he refused to leave his post. "Maybe 12 hours, Palmer said. "The reactor is stable, but the hull breaches are getting worse. If they hit us again in the same spots, we are finished." 12 hours. It was not much time, but it would have to be enough. Lieutenant Maya Price stood at the tactical station, her fingers moving across the controls. She had been working on her plan for hours, running calculations and checking trajectories. Now she was ready. "I have an idea," she said. Cole walked over to look at her screen. It showed a map of the asteroid field with hundreds of small dots marking individual rocks. Lines connected some of the dots, showing paths through the field. "We attach small thrusters to the asteroids," Maya explained. "We program them to move on our command. When they enter the field, we turn the asteroids into weapons." It was a crazy idea. It required perfect timing and incredible coordination. But Cole had learned long ago that crazy ideas were often the best kind. "Do it," he said. The next few hours were a blur of activity. Crew members put on space suits and went outside to attach thrusters to nearby asteroids. Palmer worked miracles with limited resources, building guidance systems from spare parts. Maya coordinated everything from the bridge, keeping track of hundreds of moving pieces. The other 3 ships did the same. Captain Bate Morgan of the Reliant organized her crew with quiet efficiency. Captain Shaw of the Defiance pushed his damaged ship to its limits. Captain Torres of the Valor dried her tears and got to work. They were all exhausted, all grieving, but they refused to give up. Doctor moved between the ships in a shuttle, treating the wounded and comforting the dying. She was the chief medical officer of the Horizon, a gentle woman with steady hands. Her medical bay was overflowing with injured crew members, but she found time for every single one. "You are going to be fine," she told a young ensign with burns on his arms. "Just rest and let the medicine work." The ensign grabbed her hand. "Are we going to survive this, doctor?" Smiled even though her heart was breaking. "We are humans. Surviving is what we do." They attacked at dawn, or what passed for dawn in the endless darkness of space. Their ships poured into the asteroid field, weapons firing in all directions. They expected the human ships to run or surrender. They were wrong. Maya triggered the first wave of asteroids. Rocks the size of buildings suddenly changed direction, slamming into ships with devastating force. The enemy had no time to react. 3 vessels were destroyed in the first minute. The humans fought like demons. They used the asteroids as shields and weapons, dancing between the rocks while they struggled to adapt. Every time the enemy thought they had cornered a human ship, another wave of asteroids would crash into their formation. Cole commanded from the bridge, his voice steady even as explosions rocked the horizon. He coordinated with the other captains, adjusting tactics on the fly. When the Reliant lost its main weapons, Cole moved the Horizon to cover her. When the Defiance took a critical hit, the Valor swooped in to draw enemy fire. They fought for 3 days straight. 3 days without sleep, 3 days without proper food, 3 days of constant battle and grinding fear. Crew members worked in shifts, grabbing a few minutes of rest before returning to their posts. Some collapsed from exhaustion and had to be carried to medical. Others pushed through the pain and kept fighting. They could not understand it. They had fought many species across the galaxy, but none like this. Normal enemies would surrender when the odds turned against them. Normal enemies would accept defeat rather than die for nothing. But humans were not normal enemies. On the 3rd day, the commander sent a message. "Human vessels, you have fought well. My fleet has lost 17 ships to your 4. This is not possible. You should have died days ago. How do you continue?" Cole answered the message himself. "We are humans. We do not know how to quit." There was a long pause before the commander responded. "I understand now why they feared you enough to betray you. You are dangerous, more dangerous than we realized. My fleet will withdraw. You have earned our respect." The ships pulled back and disappeared into faster-than-light travel. The asteroid field fell silent. Cole slumped in his chair, exhaustion finally catching up with him. Around him, his crew began to cheer and cry and hug each other. They had survived. Against impossible odds, they had survived. Maya walked over and stood beside him. Her uniform was torn and her face was pale, but she was smiling. "We did it, sir." Cole nodded slowly. "We did, but this is not over. They are still out there. They need to learn what happens when you betray humans." He pulled out the recording device he had used to document everything. Every battle, every death, every act of treachery. He added a final message to Earth. "We survived. 4 ships out of 12. 2,847 dead because they used us as bait. I am bringing my people home. And then I am going to make sure the galaxy never forgets what was done to us." He sent the message and closed his eyes. There would be time to rest later. Right now, he had a long journey ahead of him, and at the end of that journey there would be a reckoning. Admiral Lane stood before the United Earth Council and pressed play on the recording. The chamber fell silent as Commander Cole's voice filled the room. The recording lasted 47 minutes. It showed everything. The joint mission with the battle against the moment when the fleet abandoned their human allies. Ambassador A's cold smile as she explained that humans were meant to die. When the recording ended, no one spoke for a long time. Admiral Lane was a woman in her 60s with gray hair and hard eyes. She had spent her entire life in military service, fighting to protect Earth and its people. She had seen many terrible things, but this betrayal shook her to her core. 2,847 people, she said quietly. Mothers, fathers, sons, daughters. They trusted the because we told them to trust the. We signed that treaty. We sent them to die. Councilman George cleared his throat. He was a politician, soft and comfortable, and he looked uncomfortable with the direction of this meeting. Admiral, perhaps we should consider the larger picture. They are still a powerful civilization. Starting a conflict with them would be unwise. Lane turned to face him. Her expression could have frozen water. You want us to do nothing, to pretend that 2,847 of our people did not die because of lies. I want us to be practical, said. The galaxy is a dangerous place. We need allies, even imperfect ones. Perhaps we can negotiate some form of compensation. Another councilwoman stood up. Her name was Rachel Murray, and she represented the families of those who had died at Prime. Her own nephew had been a crew member on the USS Vigilant. Compensation, she repeated. What compensation can bring back the dead? What payment can erase the fact that the watched our people die and smiled? The council chamber erupted into argument. Some members wanted immediate military action. Others wanted diplomacy. A few suggested doing nothing at all, hoping the incident would be forgotten over time. Admiral Lane raised her hand, and the chamber fell silent. We are not going to attack she said. That is what they expect. They believe we are simple creatures who will charge blindly into a war we cannot win. They are wrong. She walked to the center of the chamber and activated a display screen. It showed a complex web of connections between Earth and the Confederacy. Trade routes, technology licenses, diplomatic agreements, and economic partnerships. They think they are superior to us, Lane continued. They think their advanced technology makes them untouchable, but they have forgotten something important. Technology requires resources. Resources require trade, and trade requires trust. She pressed a button, and the web of connections began to disappear one by one. We are cutting them off. Every trade agreement canceled, every technology license revoked, every diplomatic channel closed. They will receive nothing from Earth. Nothing. Councilman looked worried. Admiral, they rely heavily on our fusion reactor components. Without them, their power grid will fail within months. I know, Lane said. Millions could die. Lane's expression did not change. Then they should not have murdered 2,847 of our people. The vote was unanimous. For the first time in human history, Earth declared total economic isolation against an alien civilization. Every human ship, every human product, every human technology was pulled from space. Companies that had spent years building relationships with partners watched those relationships turn to dust overnight. The message was clear. Humans do not forget, humans do not forgive. Ambassador A tried to make contact 3 days later. Her face appeared on screens across Earth, calm and composed as always. This response is excessive, she said. What happened at Prime was a military decision, nothing more. Surely we can discuss this like civilized species. Admiral Lane sent a reply that was broadcast across every human channel. You used our people as bait. You watched them die and called it a fair trade. There is nothing to discuss. Earth will not negotiate with murderers. The economy began to collapse within weeks. Their fusion reactors, which powered everything from cities to warships, started failing one by one. The replacement parts they needed could only be manufactured on Earth, and Earth was no longer selling. Riots broke out in cities. Citizens demanded answers from their government. Why had they betrayed the humans? Why had they thrown away a valuable alliance for a single military victory? The questions grew louder as the lights began to flicker and die. Other alien species watched with great interest. The who had gained new respect for humans after the battle at Prime began sending diplomatic messages to Earth. They offered trade agreements and mutual defense pacts. They understood now that humans were not prey to be hunted. Humans were something else entirely. The Collective, a peaceful species that had stayed neutral in galactic politics for centuries, sent a delegation to Earth. They wanted to understand these strange creatures who could forgive their enemies but never forgot a betrayal. They found the concept fascinating and terrifying. Commander Cole returned home 6 months after the battle. He was promoted to captain and given command of a new ship, the USS Remembrance. It was a powerful vessel, built with lessons learned from the Prime disaster. It was also a symbol, a promise that Earth would never again be caught unprepared. Cole stood on the bridge of his new ship and looked at the memorial plaque mounted on the wall. It listed the names of every crew member who had died at Prime. 2,847 names, each one a reminder of what they had done. Maya Price stood beside him, now promoted to executive officer. She traced her finger along the names of friends she had lost. "Is this enough?" she asked quietly. "Economic sanctions, trade isolation, the killed our people, should we not do more?" Cole shook his head slowly. "War would be quick and bloody. We might win or we might lose. But this is slow and certain. They will watch their civilization crumble and they will know exactly why. Every day they will wake up and remember what they did to us. That is worse than any bomb." Maya considered his words. "And if they come to us begging for mercy?" Cole turned to face her. His eyes were cold, colder than she had ever seen them. "Then we will remind them of the 2,847 people who begged for their lives at Prime. We will remind them of Ambassador A's smile, and we will tell them no." Outside the window, Earth hung in the darkness of space. It looked small and fragile compared to the vast galaxy around it, but appearances were deceiving. Earth had just taught the universe a lesson that would never be forgotten. Humans remember, and human memory is the most dangerous weapon of all. 3 years passed, and the Confederacy was dying. Captain Cole stood on the bridge of the USS Remembrance and watched the chaos unfold on his display screens. Colony worlds were declaring independence one by one, breaking away from a government that had doomed them all. Civil war had erupted in the core systems. Millions of refugees were fleeing in all directions, searching for any world that would take them. It was exactly what Admiral Lane had predicted. They had believed their technology made them invincible. They had never imagined that their entire civilization could collapse without a single shot being fired. Lieutenant Commander Maya Price stood beside Cole, studying the tactical displays. She had grown harder over the past 3 years, the softness of youth replaced by something sharper and colder. Watching friends die at Prime had changed her. Watching the slow destruction of an entire civilization had changed her even more. "Another colony just declared independence," she reported. "That makes 17 this month. The Confederacy only controls their home system now." Cole nodded slowly, "And the power grid?" "Failing across all major cities. They have maybe 6 months before total collapse." Maya paused. "Some of our crew are saying we should help them." "Help them?" Cole raised an eyebrow. "Why?" "Because watching them die slowly feels wrong. Some things should be quick and clean. This is neither." It was a fair point. Cole had thought about it many times during these 3 years. Was this justice or cruelty? Was there a difference? The line between the two had become blurred, and he was no longer sure which side he stood on. Doctor entered the bridge. She looked tired, as she always did these days. The medical officer had spent 3 years treating survivors of the Prime battle, listening to their nightmares and helping them heal. The work had taken its toll. "Captain, we are receiving a transmission from the It is Ambassador. She is requesting a meeting. Cole felt his jaw tighten at the name. He remembered A's cold smile as she explained that humans were meant to die. He remembered her calm voice dismissing 2,847 deaths as a fair trade. "Put her through," he said. The main screen flickered to life and there she was. But she was not the same creature Cole remembered. A looked old and broken. Her pale blue skin had turned gray and her forearms hung limply at her sides. The confidence in her eyes had been replaced by fear. "Commander Cole," she said, her voice cracked. "I apologize, I mean Captain Cole. Thank you for speaking with me." Cole said nothing, he simply waited. Took a shaky breath. "I know you have no reason to listen to me. What happened at Prime it was a mistake, a terrible mistake. I thought I was saving my people, but instead I have destroyed them." "You murdered 2,847 humans," Cole said flatly. "You watched us die and smiled." "I know." Tears began to fall from A's eyes. "I know what I did. I wake up every night remembering their faces, the humans who trusted us, the humans who died because of my orders. I thought I was being clever. I thought humans were simple creatures who could be used and discarded. I was wrong." Maya stepped forward. "What do you want, Ambassador?" Looked directly at the camera. "I am begging you, please, help us. Restore the trade agreements. Send us the technology we need to survive. I will do anything. I will come to Earth and face whatever punishment you demand. Just please do not let my entire species die for my mistake." The bridge fell silent. Cole could feel the eyes of his crew on him, waiting to see what he would do. Some of them wanted revenge. Others wanted mercy. He was their captain and the decision was his. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small metal plate. It was the memorial he carried everywhere, the names of every human who died at Prime engraved on its surface. He held it up so it could see. "Do you know what this is?" he asked. "Names," A whispered. "The names of the dead." "Yes, I carry it with me every day. Every night before I sleep I read these names. Every morning when I wake I read them again. This is what humans do, Ambassador. We remember." Cole put the plate back in his pocket and leaned forward. "You asked me to help you. You said you would do anything. But there is nothing you can do. Nothing that will bring back Lieutenant Amy Collins, who was 23 years old and had just gotten engaged. Nothing that will bring back Chief, who had twin daughters waiting for him at home. Nothing that will bring back any of the 2,847 people you murdered." I was sobbing now, her whole body shaking. "Please, there must be something." "There is not." Cole's voice was as cold as the void between stars. "Humans do not forget, Ambassador. We do not forgive betrayal, and we do not make the same mistake twice. Your people will survive or they will not, but it will happen without our help." He signaled to cut the transmission. A's face disappeared, replaced by the blackness of space. Doctor spoke quietly. "Captain, was that justice?" Cole turned to look at her. The question hung in the air between them, heavy and uncomfortable. "I do not know," he admitted. "Maybe it was justice. Maybe it was revenge. Maybe there is no difference, but I know this. Every species in the galaxy is watching what happens to the... They are learning what it costs to betray humanity. If our response saves even one human life in the future, then it will be worth it." Maya nodded slowly. "They have already signed 3 new trade agreements with us. They are talking about a mutual defense pact. Species that ignored us before are now sending diplomatic missions. They respect us now." "They fear us," Cole corrected. "Fear and respect are not the same thing." "Maybe not, but fear will keep us safe, and right now that is enough." Cole walked to the window and stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the civilization was crumbling into dust. Millions of creatures were suffering because of decisions made by their leaders. It was terrible and tragic and entirely preventable. But it was also necessary. The galaxy was a dangerous place, full of species that would use humanity, and discard them without a second thought. The only way to survive was to make the cost of betrayal so high that no one would ever consider paying it. They had paid that cost, and the universe would never forget. 10 years had passed since the betrayal at Prime, and the galaxy had changed forever. Admiral Cole walked through the corridors of the Galactic Assembly Station, surrounded by aliens of every shape and size. There were the tall, with their clicking mandibles, the small, furry who communicated through musical tones, the crystalline who sparkled under the station lights. 47 species had gathered here today to hear humanity speak. Cole wore his dress uniform, covered with medals and ribbons that marked his service. But the only decoration that mattered to him was a small metal pin above his heart. It was shaped like a human ship, and it bore the number 2847. He wore it to every important meeting, a reminder of why he had fought so hard for so long. The assembly hall was enormous, a vast chamber designed to hold representatives from across the galaxy. Cole walked to the central platform and looked out at the sea of alien faces. Some looked at him with respect, others looked at him with fear. A few looked at him with something close to worship. "Thank you for gathering here today," Cole began. "I know many of you have questions about humanity, about our nature, our values, and our place in this galaxy. I will try to answer those questions as honestly as I can." He pressed a button, and a holographic display appeared behind him. It showed images of Earth, of human cities and human faces, of ships and stations and colonies spread across a dozen star systems. Humans are a young species. We have only been traveling among the stars for a few generations. Compared to most of you, we are children taking our first steps into a vast and dangerous universe. The display shifted to show the battle at Prime. Human ships fighting desperately against overwhelming odds, vessels fleeing into the darkness. 10 years ago, we learned a painful lesson. We learned that the galaxy does not reward trust. We learned that some species see kindness as weakness and honor as foolishness. We learned that friendship can be a weapon used against you. Cole paused, letting the images speak for themselves. The Confederacy betrayed us. They used our ships as bait and watched our people die. They believed we were too weak and too primitive to matter. They believed they could murder 2,847 humans and face no consequences. The display changed again, showing the collapse of civilization. Darkened cities, starving refugees, a once proud species reduced to scattered fragments. They were wrong. A murmur ran through the assembly. Cole saw the ambassador nodding slowly, his compound eyes fixed on the human at the center of the platform. "I did not come here to threaten you," Cole continued. "I came here to explain who we are. Humans are not conquerors. We do not seek to rule the galaxy or dominate other species. We want peace. We want trade. We want friendship." He stepped forward, and his voice grew harder. "But we will not be used. We will not be betrayed. We will not be sacrificed for someone else's benefit. If you stand with us, we will stand with you until the end of time. We will die for our allies. We will sacrifice everything for those we call friends. That is our promise, and we keep our promises." The display behind him showed human ships flying alongside vessels, traders docking at human stations, diplomatic meetings between dozens of species. "But if you betray us, if you murder our people and expect no consequences, then you will learn what the learned. Human memory is long, human patience is endless, and human vengeance is something you do not want to experience." Cole fell silent. The assembly hall was completely quiet. Then the ambassador rose from his seat. He was an old warrior by countless battles, and he commanded the respect of his entire species. He walked slowly to the center platform and stood beside Cole. "I fought humans at Prime," he said. "My fleet outnumbered them 50 to 1. We should have destroyed them in hours. Instead, they fought for 3 days. They turned asteroids into weapons. They refused to surrender even when all hope was lost. We killed many of them, but we paid dearly for every death." He turned to face the assembly. "After the battle, I sent a message to the human commander. I told him that my fleet would withdraw. I told him that he had earned our respect. That was the truth, but it was not the whole truth. The whole truth is that I was afraid. I was afraid of creatures who would not stop fighting, would not stop hopping, would not stop surviving no matter what we did to them." They placed one clawed hand on Cole's shoulder. "Humanity is not a species to be used or discarded. They are a species to be honored and respected. The stand with humanity. We always will." One by one, other ambassadors rose to speak. They pledged their friendship. They offered trade agreements. Species that had ignored humanity for years now fell over themselves to offer alliance and partnership. Cole accepted their words with grace, but his mind was elsewhere. He was thinking about the memorial at Prime, where 4 human ships still drifted among the asteroids. He was thinking about the names engraved on the pin above his heart. After the assembly ended, Cole returned to his ship. Captain Maya Price was waiting for him on the bridge. She had commanded her own vessel for 5 years now, but she still came to see him whenever their paths crossed. "It is done," Cole said quietly. "Humanity has found its place in the galaxy." Maya nodded. "The other species will remember this day. They will remember what you said." "I hope so." Cole walked to the window and stared out at the stars. "But more importantly, I hope they remember why we became this way. I hope they remember Prime." "They will," Maya joined him at the window. "The whole galaxy knows the story now. Humans will die for their friends and destroy their enemies. Simple as that." Cole smiled, though there was no joy in it. "Is it strange that I miss the old days? Before Prime, humans were optimistic. We believed the galaxy was full of potential friends waiting to be discovered. Now we know better." "Knowledge always comes with a price," Maya said. "But we are stronger now, wiser. No one will ever betray us again." They stood in silence for a long moment, watching the stars drift past. Somewhere out there, the scattered remnants of the people were struggling to survive on refugee worlds. Ambassador had died 2 years ago, broken and forgotten. The civilization she had tried to save was gone forever. And somewhere out there, new species were hearing the story of Prime for the first time. They were learning about humans, about their loyalty and their vengeance, about the terrible price of betrayal. Cole touched the pin above his heart. 2,847 names. 2,847 reasons why humanity had become what it was. "We remember," he whispered to the stars. "We always remember." The lesson had been taught. The galaxy had learned. And no one would ever forget that betraying humans was a death sentence.